It's like a piece of heaven, really. I wake up to roosters crowing, you know? I make friends with toads and frogs. I get to see deer every day crossing the gravel roads. I absolutely love it.
As a vegan, do you ever feel like you're living in a parallel universe, aware of things that many others don't even seem to notice, let alone acknowledge? I'm Chrissy Benson, host of the Vegan Posse podcast. We talk with vegans from around the globe who, like you, are living lives of integrity and compassion with an eye toward justice. Through their personal stories, you'll come to see that you're not an outlier. In fact, you're part of an entire posse of individuals who aren't just keeping the peace, they're creating it through their food choices and beyond. You won't be saddling up, but you're in for the ride of your life. Welcome to the Vegan Posse. Hey Posse, I'm your host, Chrissy Benson. And this week, the Vegan Posse welcomes another Chrissy, or more formally, Christina Mitchell. Chrissy describes herself as a fun-loving Kansas girl who loves animals and at one point in life wanted to be a veterinarian, but didn't think she could handle euthanizing animals. Chrissy grew up as a meat eater, questioning where her food came from. She went vegan in 2016 when a random slaughterhouse video played on her Facebook feed. Since then, she's protested with activists around the United States against animal cruelty at slaughterhouses, factory farms, and pet stores, and she's also been part of some highly dramatic animal rescues. Chrissy currently volunteers and lives at Shy 88 Farm Sanctuary with her 4 dogs and a whole bunch of other animals. So enjoy this conversation with Chrissy Mitchell. Chrissy, welcome to the Vegan Posse. Are you ready?
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. It's not often that Chrissy...
I'm ready.
Good. Yeah, it's not often that Chrissy meets Chrissy. So you have the distinct honor of being the first Chrissy guest on the podcast.
Well,
but I'm the host. Me. So just stay in your lane.
I will stay in my lane.
So I first met you in Kansas. Is that where you were born and raised?
I was born in Missouri, but I've lived in Kansas most of my life. I moved to Kansas when I was about 5 years old.
And what was it like growing up there? Did you think much about the animals in our food system?
I mean, knew where food came from. Dad had told me when I was young, probably 5 or 6. Where
really?
Bacon
How
came
did
from.
You remember that conversation?
No, I don't remember the conversation that well, but he also told me where hot dogs came from and that they were multiple body parts of a pig. I remember, but it never dawned on me to ask my dad to go vegan. I didn't even know what vegan was.
Right. Who does? Yeah. So. It's really only these days that we even hear the word. So that's just so interesting to me. I'm trying to think how a father would explain something like that to a 6-year-old girl. Were you horrified, or were you just taking it as, I guess this is how it is?
Yeah, I was just taking it as is. I don't remember being horrified at all.
It's so funny what we just accept as kids. Our parents tell us these things and we just say, okay, yeah.
I do remember when I was in elementary school, I was a little bit older, and I do remember him telling me that in other countries they eat dogs, and that did surprise me. It was always my dad sharing information about animals and
why do you think that was?
I'm not sure.
Was he just the one that you were more comfortable asking questions?
I mean, my dad is an animal lover like I am, so I think that's part of it. Yeah.
Very interesting.
So we always had an animal in the house because of my dad. I remember my cat Sprocket, and we had my first dog that I remember having was Baby the dog, and we had those animals because of my dad.
So how was it that you ended up finding the vegan?
Well, it kind of started for me questioning. I had some health issues, health concerns, and then I kind of just did my own research from there. I watched a documentary called Super
I
Size
remember
Me.
that one.
Um,
Yeah, that was
kind of
good. Yeah.
gross. Yeah, I kind of friends with this girl from work. She shared the Taji uh, dolphin slaughter and what they do to dolphins, and I was horrified. But there was a random person that shared in a Facebook. It was a Facebook comment that I remember. She shared some documentaries, like Forks Over Knives, Earthlings, and I watched Forks Over Knives, and I went from there. That's
And how old
kind of
were
how
you
it
at the
started.
time?
Let's see. So I went vegan when I was 36, but this was probably when I was about
So what
35.
was it like making that transition? It sounds like it took a little time.
Yeah, it did because, like many people, I questioned where my protein came from, that sort of thing. But once I went vegan, it wasn't hard. I started out eating fish and then kind of just, I gave up dairy first, and then I started just eating fish, and then
Interesting.
went
Did you
from
give
there.
up dairy first? Was that because of Forks Over Knives?
Well, partly because I've suffered from ovarian cysts all my life, from the time I was 15 to the time I
Wow.
was 36. And I learned that dairy milk is a huge culprit, how your body reacts. And one of the reasons why I got how why I feel I had ovarian cysts.
And did it
So I
help?
gave
Did
that
it
up
change
first.
things?
Yeah, absolutely. I was a huge milk drinker or dairy drinker. I went in school. It's like they promote dairy milk everywhere, right? And I was always drinking at least 2 cartons of milk,
Yeah.
or the small little cartons lun- at lunch, every day. And then for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but I didn't think about the harm of what it was doing to my
Hmm.
body at the time. But yeah, when I learned that it affected my body in a negative way,
Nice.
I gave
Yeah.
up.
And so how long did it take for you to start seeing those health benefits?
I honestly don't remember exactly, but I haven't suffered from a major cyst since
And what,
I was
like,
36.
I take it you had symptoms, like there was pain, or how did you even know you had these?
Yeah, yeah. No, I would have, usually it would affect my right side and I would have
Oh.
abdominal pain. Sometimes it felt like somebody was like
Oh,
poking me in the
wow.
side. It was really uncomfortable to the point where when I want to say in my young 20s, maybe 20, I ended up in the hospital, and
Oh
almost
my goodness.
hemorrhaged because I had a ovarian
Oh
cyst.
my goodness. A very early age to start having those kinds of. So you gave up the cow's milk and then you stopped having issues. How noticeable was it? Or was it?
Well, after I gave up cow's milk, then then I went vegan, shortly thereafter. So I think that was
And so would
a
you
huge
say
part of
early
it
on
too.
it was more the health aspects you were thinking about, or were you thinking about the animal aspect too? Because I know you've gotten really deep into, the um animal advocacy. So how did well,
How
just
did I
like
join
because
what?
you
I'm
started
sorry.
off, working on like motivated by health concerns, but like when I met you, you're very
Hmm.
deep into animal advocacy. And in fact, you currently live on a farm sanctuary. So I want to hear about
You, yeah.
that evolution
Uh,
and education, whatever it took to get you to where you are now.
I had questions about going vegan and that sort of thing. And so I got with Vegan Outreach online. And then I met a local mentor in my area. And she shared with me different recipes, shared different resources on how to go vegan and stay vegan. And then I met up with her at a vegan meetup in Kansas City. It's kind of like a little veg fest or a potluck. And I met some other vegan friends, and that's basically what motivated me and got me
Is
into
that where you
activism.
met Serena Farb? who's been a previous guest on the show?
No, actually, I I met Serena at a Veg Fest, the 2000, I want to say 2017 Veg Fest in Kansas City, um, and just kind of went from there. My my ex played poker with her dad, and so my ex introduced me um, to her dad, and then we just kind of went from there. We went to a comedy club that night, spent time from there, and then we just became really good friends. I was a caregiver at the time, and I became Serena's grandparents' caregiver. So I just kind of grew, our connection and
Yeah, so you
friendship
had
grew
a
from
lot
there.
of points of connection, it sounds like. So when you went vegan,
Yeah,
you were already married at that time?
I wasn't married, but I was in a
Yeah,
long-term
and so how
relationship.
did
Yes.
he
hmm
react to this change you were making?
He was actually very supportive, very supportive. He was a huge meat eater, um, and he ended up
Wow.
going vegan too. But it took him longer than me to actually go vegan. Like he gave up pork first, and then he gave up, oh gosh, then he gave up, I think cheese was the last thing that he gave up. So it was like pork and then finally dairy
Yeah, a man
products.
living in the Midwest. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yes, and he's
Very
still
nice. Yeah,
vegan,
yeah, but you're
as
not
far as I
married
know.
to him anymore. Yes. Okay.
No. No, I was never married to him. We were in a long-term relationship though for
Long
15
time.
years. It was
Okay.
a
And
long
so he
time.
was obviously open to hearing
Yeah.
about veganism and
Oh, yeah, he was the reason why I watched Super
oh,
Size Me. That
oh,
was his
so he
idea.
was your gateway rather than vice versa, but you went vegan
Yeah.
first. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny how that happens sometimes. I know my brother and I had kind of somewhat parallel stories. I I think I went vegan
Okay.
and stayed vegan before he did, but he had done, trial periods of going vegan before I did. And so, yeah, it's always funny when it actually takes.
Okay.
Um, so how did going vegan, affect your personal relationships and family relationships?
Well, at times, like in the beginning, it was a little difficult, right? I don't think my family, I don't know necessarily if they took it that well. I mean, my mom did, my dad, they're very supportive. But I did have some family members that felt I was a little too pushy at times.
That's something that's
And they
said,
were uncomfortable
pretty
hearing.
frequently about vegans. I think you get the
Yeah, like I have an aunt that told me, she doesn't have time to think about the life of a chicken, or of another aunt that was very uncomfortable, with me talking about dairy. So, because she likes dairy in her cereal, but actually it's so funny because here lately, her daughter has been spending more time with me, and she's really open to going vegan. So, I
so
mean,
you're doing the surreptitious activism through family members. Very nice. Very
right.
nice. Yeah, it really is funny how
Yeah.
people respond. I know I was talking to my mom just the other day, just about cows. It was actually on the way home from a vegan summer fest. It was such a great weekend
hmm
and all this great food and great conversation, just powerful talks and presentations, like just a great time. And then driving home on the road, a truckload of cattle, who were being hauled off
hmm
somewhere, and it just kind of broke my heart in that
Yeah.
moment because here we humans had been having such a great time and feeling so good about ourselves for caring and for talking about these important issues, and then seeing those animals, nothing had changed for them. We were having a great time eating great food, but
No.
they were still where they were. But the point I was
Yeah.
I was going to get to was that I told my mom that story, and her response was, "Oh, but you're assuming that cows have, a similar experience to what we experience. And, you're projecting your human, whatever the word is, anthropomorphism. And I was like, Mom, come on, cows don't want to die. They don't want to hurt. They want to be comfortable. But yeah, it is funny how people respond. So what was that with you, going from the health veganism to more of the animal focused veganism? Did that transition happen pretty quickly, or was it just kind of a process of education through vegan outreach? Like how did you evolve, in your conception of what it meant to be vegan?
Well, it kind of evolved just by hanging around certain
Pushy
people
people.
that, thought the same way.
Pushy people.
Right, exactly. And so I ended up, and shortly thereafter, I ended up going down on the plaza and doing a protest with the horse carriages.
In Kansas City, or where were you protesting? Pardon me?
Yeah, I want to say,
Yeah.
I was in Kansas City, and I want to say it was within the
Wow.
same year of me going vegan, so 2016, yeah. Yeah, and boy, my gosh, that was
In
an
what way?
eye-opener. Just seeing how the owner of this particular business, with the horses, how he came across. He's just very, I felt aggressive towards us, when we were just trying to share information with people, you know, that horses don't belong on the street, behind cars, and they get stressed out, obviously, but just the way that he came off towards us, was definitely an eye opener. And I have friends to this day, that still go down there, during the Christmas season or Thanksgiving season, and
So I
protest
take
down there.
it he's still operating. They're still, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Did you
yeah,
ever read the book
yes,
Black Beauty as a little girl? Did you ever read that book? Yeah,
Black
it's
Beauty,
about
no.
a horse. It's a classic. Black Beauty.
Oh,
Yeah.
Black Beauty,
Yeah.
yes,
And I
yes,
just remember,
yes,
like, for me that
yes.
painted a very vivid picture of what it's like to be a horse, and to, you know, to have to wear
Right.
blinders, and what the bit felt like in the mouth. Like, it just, even now it stayed with me. So you've gotten into just a lot of varying, animal activism endeavors. So can you talk a little about what that's been like, and just share some of your experiences with us?
Sure. So, gosh, I don't even know
Well,
where to
what was one of the
start.
first,
I've done a
animal
little bit.
rescues, or, just animal activism events you participated in?
Yeah, sure. So one of the first times I did activism was at Triumph Slaughterhouse. It's in St. Joe,
What
Missouri,
is
and
Triumph?
that
What kind of
particular
food company are they?
they slaughter pigs.
How triumphant, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So it's a slaughterhouse where they slaughter over 6 million pigs a year. And my friends at the time, we were in a group called Kansas City Animal Safe, and which we need to get together
Is that
again,
related
right?
to Toronto
But
Pig
COVID kind of,
Save? Okay,
yes,
got
it's
it.
all kind of related, yeah. Um, and we need to start. We need to get. I just feel like because of COVID, everything kind of just like slowed down. But we need to get a Kansas City
Mm.
group together again. But anyways, it was myself and some friends. We went down to Triumph, and we did what we call a silent vigil, where we hold signs on the sidewalk, and we bear witness to pigs coming in on trailers and going into the slaughterhouse. And we talk to anybody that wants to listen to us, sort of thing. Um, and that was very eye-opening to me, because for the first time in my life, when the trailer stopped at a red light, I could see the individual. I could see the pigs in the trailer, and it just a light came on. I'm like, this is not right. This is going to be the last day of their life, and I can't do anything about it except share their story, share what I see and go live with
What
it,
time of day was this?
That's the kind of activism that I like to do. I like to go live when I'm at a slaughterhouse or factory farm and show people exactly what goes on in the present
When you say
time,
go live, what do you mean? Are you filming this somehow?
Um, yes, I'm filming it. I'm FaceTiming. I'm on Facebook or I'm on Instagram. I'm going live with it.
And what time of day was it that you were out there? The afternoon.
The
Okay, so it's
afternoon.
broad daylight when these animals are getting hauled in.
Oh yeah.
What
Oh
was
yeah.
what was that experience like for you?
I mean, it's heartbreaking because, I
Yeah,
can't do anything about it.
yeah,
I can't rescue and take those
yeah.
pigs out of the trailer. There's nothing I could do. I felt helpless,
Did the
you know.
drivers notice you? Did people like how, yeah, and how
Oh
did
yeah.
they seem to react?
Not, we've had drivers call us names and so forth. Others just drive away or, they'll honk really loud sort of thing. And that stresses out the animals even more. So yeah, they're a little aggressive, but it is their job to get the animals to slaughter. So that's their job. So they don't want us to get in the middle of it. So yeah, they're not really happy about it. Or the ones
Yeah.
that I've seen.
And what could
Yeah.
how much could you see of the pigs themselves? Were they like,
I mean, when they're stopped at a light, you can see everything because there's holes in the truck or the trailer. You can see in it. Um, they're laying in their filth sometimes, there's no protection from the elements. They're just in this metal and in extreme temperatures at times. When I did my activism, it was in the middle of the summer, so it's hot, you know. They have no water.
and what was it
So,
like for
yeah.
you going home afterward and like going to bed that night? I mean, I imagine experiences like that must stay with you and kind of haunt you.
Yeah, they do, but you get through it because you have supportive friends that feel the same way that you do. So it's easier when I can share the information and I can talk to people with like-minded, you know, people that have
Yeah.
the same values, that feel the same way that I do. I'm sorry about my dog. Go outside, go for it. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Sorry about that.
And so what kind of responses did you get, to the people who are watching your FaceTime or your Facebook feed?
I mean, mostly
Is
good
it mostly
responses.
vegans watching, or
Um,
do other people, non-vegan people, do they seem to be able to absorb this or, just really take it in?
Well, no, I would say friends that aren't vegan. So that's the
Mm.
reason why I share. That's the reason why I go live. And I've had non-vegan friends, I'll make comments, that's what animals are for. Yeah, that's pretty hard to know that people that you're friends with or family members feel that way. Because obviously they're not.
Right. And I'm sure some of
So,
them were probably making jokes or
yeah. Oh, yeah,
like I remember
for
a
sure.
few years back hearing
Hmm.
about a children's book, and this is an actual book. Maybe you've heard about it too, but it's a non-vegan, sort of anti-vegan children's book, and it's about a pig who wants to grow up to be bacon, and it's all about how
Oh,
happy and excited he is that he's gonna ultimately become bacon and be a source of, pleasure and delight for so many people. So sick, so
mm,
sick.
yeah, that's
So
that's
in
really
this
twisted.
instance of the Kansas City Pig Safe, it was a question of bearing witness and honoring those animals in their final moments. But I know you have had the chance to do some rescue. So how did you find those situations, and how did some of them go?
So I follow a lot of activists online or animal lovers, and some of them share, animals that, when animals need a rescue. Or, for instance, I rescued a pig named Woody. And the only reason I did that is because a Facebook friend shared a teacher in Texas post on Facebook. And that teacher had a student who was an FFA. And her
Future
student didn't
Farmers of
want to send
America,
her
for people who
pig.
don't know. Is that right? Okay.
Yes, yes, exactly. And so I caught wind just because of this individual who shared this teacher's story about her student. And I asked my boss if I could go get him. And then I asked Chris here at Shy 38 if it was okay if I rescued him and brought him so he could live here on
Chris,
property.
so tell us
She was like,
who
yeah,
Chris
sure.
is.
Okay, so Chris is the founder of Shy 38. It is a farm sanctuary and a nonprofit for, well, farm animals. And she has over 180 animals living here on property. And mostly are chickens. We love chickens, but she does have cows, sheep,
Wow.
horses,
Yeah.
pigs. Yeah. So, yeah, I ended up going down to Texas, and originally, the post on Facebook was about a pig named Bubba. And I had a connection with Bubba because that is my brother's
Oh.
nickname.
And so just to
We call him
understand,
Bubba.
there was the student who was in FFA, and in FFA you kind of raise,
Right.
the student was sort of raising this pig until he was big enough to be killed for meat. Is that how it works? And the student was having a hard time with that and didn't want the pig to go through with that. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, so what they do is they raise the animal, right? And then they end up going to show off their animal. And if the animal wins in show, then they end up being auctioned off and then slaughtered. That's essentially their
And how old was this student? Okay,
probably
so like a
17,
high school
18.
kid. Got it. And then
but originally Bubba's owner was female. And so originally I wanted to go down and get Bubba because I had the connection with his name. But the day before, like when I got down to Texas, the day before I was supposed to pick up Bubba, I found out that the student changed her mind because he won in show and he was going to auction.
Oh, wow. So the student, wow, that's even more heartbreaking. Yeah. So initially the student wanted to save Bubba, but then Bubba won. What a prize, right? Wow.
Yeah. So, and they get paid if their animal wins. And so, yeah.
So you were there. Had you brought like a trailer or something? Like, how were you even going to go about this endeavor?
Well, it wasn't a trailer. It was just a big old, like, moving van, if you will, like one of those little white utility vans. Yeah, and I was gung ho. I
Were
was
you
going to
by
bring
yourself,
Bubba
or
home.
did you have people with you? You were by yourself and you were just going to bring Bubba home with you in the van?
Well, I drove down there, but I did have a friend with me. He flew in from Oregon, at the last minute, and we drove down there together. Yeah. So, and thank goodness, because I don't know if I'd be able to do it by myself.
So what ended up happening? So Bubba's fate was now sealed.
So his fate was sealed, unfortunately. And so I when I got down there, I met up with the teacher who made the original post.
What did
Her
she
name's
think of this
Olivia,
situation? Was
and
she kind of horrified? I'm assuming the teacher is not a vegan or was not a vegan.
I'm
Oh,
pretty
she
sure she's
was.
vegan
Okay.
or
Okay. Yeah.
plant-based. I
Yeah.
I believe so. Um, and she was really sweet. And we're still friends on Facebook to this day. But anyways, as an activist, I couldn't pay I couldn't pay that student so I could bring um, Bubba home because that goes against everything that I'm against. It supports the system
Were
that
you
I'm
were you
against.
tempted in the moment?
So,
Were you tempted to, just do it?
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, of course. So, anyways, there's this building where all the animals are contained before they go into auction or show. And I was just going around looking at all the animals, talking to, the kids, the FFA students. And I found this pig named
So they named
Woody.
their pigs. They named
And
their
I talked,
animals.
yeah, they name the animals and they grow a love and connection to these animals. And it's just a disservice, to send them to slaughter. It's heartbreaking. I talked to one student who said that's just the way it is. And I'm like,
Right.
but it doesn't have to be, you know? And obviously, and that was, he had a cow, this particular student that I was talking to. And obviously, he loved his cow and his cow was beautiful, but literally the next day was slaughter for this beautiful cow. But I found this pig named Woody because I was determined to bring an animal home. I didn't care. And I talked to the student who was raising him, and he was okay with me bringing Baba home, like surrendering him and letting me bring him home. So I did. I brought a pig home, but it wasn't the pig that
Wow.
I originally
Wow.
wanted
And so this
to.
student, what was that conversation like? How did you get his buy-in?
I mean, it was kind of just short and sweet.
You said, I've got a van. I can take him to a nice
Y-
place. We can do this right now. I'm ready to go.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And there was a group of students that helped me get Woody in the van so I could take him home, and
I
he was
mean,
part of
if
that. So, but yeah, the conversation was just short and sweet because um, from what I understand, he ended up um, breeding or raising another pig like the following year. Yeah. I was hoping the experience
right,
would,
spark something in him. Yeah.
open his mind,
Yeah.
spark something in
Well,
him, but
yeah, not yet, maybe eventually. Yeah, because I was going to say, like, in theory that could be, and I'm sure it was powerful in its own way, even if it didn't bear immediate fruit other than for Woody. But, just for these FFA kids who assume that this is just how it is, to, see one of their own
yeah,
being rescued and just getting this glimmer of awareness. It doesn't have to be this way. For this guy,
yeah.
it's going to be a lot better, and maybe it can be better for. Did he feel like anybody was kind of, you know, thinking about this in a different way, or was there maybe just no time, just in the interest of practicality?
I think there just wasn't any time to
Got
like
it.
really
Yeah.
visit with the kids. I was just, I was excited to just bring an animal
What was
home,
it? What was it
and
like riding with
the
him in a
kids
car in
were,
a van for how long a drive is it?
I was excited. It was a thrill.
Oh
It
my
was only 12
gosh.
hours, but
Wow.
mhm. I brought him home from Texas to Kansas. So
Wow.
yeah,
Had
it
you
was
ever
over
spent
12
time with a
hours.
pig before? I
Not like
mean,
that, no.
yeah, what was it like? Was he
No.
confused or
I
what was
mean,
his reaction?
I've spent time with pigs here on the sanctuary here at Shy, but I've never had a connection like that. I've never rescued
And
a
so did
pig
he just
before.
lie down in the back of the van or what was his demeanor throughout this
Well,
whole experience?
oh yeah. He was yeah, he was comfortable, I think, and he just laid down and he never really made any noise or anything.
And then
So,
what
yeah.
what happens? You brought him to the sanctuary?
Yep. So we had to wait a night. He had to stay out. I brought him back to, I brought him back, come on in. Brought him back to my apartment. He had to stay out, in the van, a night before I could get him to shy. I would check on him every once in a while, make sure he was okay. Because it was, I want to say January when we
Cold,
did it. It
yeah.
was pretty cold out, so I would
Yeah.
check on him. Yeah. But he did really good coming out here
And
to
so did
shy.
he settle in pretty
Um,
quickly? Did he seem to like I know this is an impossible question to answer, but do you think he had any sense of, you know, being delivered from this gruesome fate? Or maybe not, because I'm sure the student raising him was kind and he had a pretty decent life comparatively.
yeah, I mean, I would hope that he did feel a sense of peace being among, other friends, other pigs like himself, and not being, in a cage or a crate, among other animals that he couldn't
Yeah.
necessarily play with. So, but yeah, he has friends out here. There's Gilbert and Petey and Pinkerton. Pinkerton looks just like him, except Pinkerton he doesn't have the cutout ears. So in FFA, they do record keeping. And for Woody, unfortunately, they cut out parts of his ear to like keep track of like his litter or how many litters his mom had, sort of thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
How
So
how big
yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting too, how they kind of mutilate the animal's body to like keep track
do
of
the
certain
kids
things.
do that?
But yeah, that's how you can tell the difference between him and Pinkerton because Pinkerton
Wow.
has his full
Wow.
ears.
Do the students themselves do that mutilation or do they take them somewhere to have that done?
That's a really good question. I'm not absolutely
Yeah, and
sure
I
on that.
wonder they probably
Yeah.
don't use anesthesia, I would imagine, if they don't even use anesthesia to castrate them. Boy.
No,
Wow.
I
So
would
so
assume
Woody
not.
is still, alive and living happily at the sanctuary. Do
Oh
you
yeah.
see him much? Does he remember you? Does he know you?
I think he remembers me. He was like staring at me hard the other day. Like usually when I'm out there checking for him, he's usually sleeping. He likes to sleep a lot. So
How
sleep
big
and
is
eat
he?
really. He's about
Wow.
500 pounds. He's a he's a big boy. So when I picked him up,
Oh,
he was about
wow.
250.
Wow.
So he's about five or a little over 500 pounds now. And he's a pink and black pig. He's really cute.
So that was, well, successful for Woody, not successful for Bubba. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, tell us some more stories. What other animals have you, gotten to know or helped
Yeah, sure. So let's see. No, well, I just within the last couple of years tried to put a documentary together with seven of my friends to show this. This is kind of, well, it's sad too, unfortunately, but we tried to put a documentary together to show the realities of factory farming. Um, and we used a website called Counterglow. I don't know if you've
No.
heard about it, but you can go on their website. It's counterglow.org, and you can see they have a map and satellite imagery where you can see where all these factory farms are saturated within certain areas, like the Midwest, for example. And we used that and we came together. We decided we were going to go and explore these factory farms, if you will, and just see what it's all about. What I really wanted to do is take, again, to go live and just show people the dumpsters because, slaughterhouse workers, they dump, or just workers in general that work in these facilities, these big, massive sheds, they just dump animals like they're trash out
Like
in
the ones who are
dumpsters.
sick or
And
something,
that's,
and so
it,
they can't be used for meat.
they're not they're not necessarily sick. So if there is an animal or an outbreak, they will kill other animals to mitigate that outbreak. Does that make sense? And so we we started driving around. There were about 35 factory farms that we could have visited. We were just driving around. That's all we were doing, just driving around. Interstate Iowa, it is saturated with pig farms. There are over 10,000, I want to say, factory farms in that
Wow.
one
And
state.
what did they look like from the
And so,
outside? Like, do you know when you're approaching that it's a factory farm? You guys knew from
oh,
your
yeah.
app you were
Oh,
using. Yeah.
they're just big, massive sheds, metal sheds. You know exactly what they are. And so, as we were driving around, the very first factory farm, we witnessed a man, a worker, dragging a dead pig out by a rope and just putting it out by a dumpster. And I just, yeah, I was in shock. And we kept driving around, and it was raining really bad. We were in the middle of tornado season. There was a tornado that was actually on the ground, probably like um, 15, 20 minutes away from us. It was crazy, but we were determined to take footage and go live at one point to show everyone what we were witnessing. And so at one point, we went by a dumpster, and you could see from the side of the road that it was filled with baby piglets all the way to the rim of this dumpster. These were huge
Wow.
dumpsters, too.
What and you think that
So,
was
yeah.
probably some sort of outbreak situation? Because why would they kill piglets?
It's possible it could have been an outbreak. I'm really
Wow.
not
So did
sure.
you take lots of
But yeah.
footage? How did that work out? It sounds like something went awry with the documentary.
Yeah. It just didn't come together like we thought it was going to. But we did share footage with friends. And you can actually go on counterglow.org and you can see some of the footage that our friend Mallory took.
Wow.
So yeah, yeah, that was heartbreaking. It's everything that you can imagine. It's heartbreaking. We saw mother sows on the ground with her piglets, with their um,
You mean in
yeah,
the gestation crates
it was hard.
or had they been discarded?
Well, there were mother sows on the ground, and like the babies were, next to them, and there were um, other mother
So
sows in the
dead, all
trash or in
dead,
the
not
dumpsters as well.
all dead.
They're all
Wow.
dead. Yeah, they're
Wow.
all dead. Yeah. No, none of them were
So
alive.
interesting because yeah, we know about all the animals killed and used for food, but then there's a whole swath that are killed and used for nothing. Yeah, what did these experiences kind of do to you? Like how have they affected you and your psyche, would you say?
That's pretty. I mean, that's why I do activism online. I try to talk to people online. I post, um, and I try to do more activism online nowadays to kind of get people thinking, and I share pictures and so forth. Um, it's hard on
Yeah.
my psyche. That's why I really like living out here on a
Yeah, so
sanctuary
tell us
farm,
how did that happen? I mean, that's such an interesting situation. And when I met you, you were just on the cusp of moving there. So yeah, how did this all
Mhm.
come about, and how has it been going?
So since I moved to Lawrence, I've been living in Lawrence, Kansas for about 5 years. Since living here, I've been volunteering off and on, with the animals, helping feed and water the animals. And I just um, my lease, I didn't want to renew my lease, and so I just reached out to Chris and asked her if I could move in. And she said, yes.
How much, where are
So
you
I
living?
moved
Is it a
up
big
here.
building, or does she have, are there, cabins or something? Like, what's it like?
No, so it's like an apartment, set up like an apartment, as you can see in the background. I have a back door and a front door. I have a bedroom, and I have a bathroom, and then it's kind of like an open area where I have my kitchen and my little living room, and it's
And
basically a metal
is she
shed,
on the
and
premises
it's
as
just
well?
decorated like
Does she live on
do
the
what?
premises as well? Or, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, she's right
Oh,
next door.
okay.
Her house is right next door, so I can go out my front door, and her
Wow,
house is right
very
there.
interesting. And how long has the sanctuary been
Yeah.
around?
So since about
Okay,
2015,
wow. So what's it like living there?
absolutely love it. It's like a piece of heaven, really. I wake up to roosters crowing, I make friends with toads and frogs, and I get to see deer every day crossing the gravel roads. I absolutely love it. I've even made a friend with a snake, believe it or not. I don't know if he's friends with me,
Good.
but I got to hold a rat snake. The rat snakes like to eat the chicken eggs, and they end up, we end up finding them in the chicken coops a lot of times. And so Chris at one point had pulled out one of the rat snakes because I told her I wanted to hold one. And so she's like, "Here, you can hold him now." So that was fun. But yeah, it's like a little piece of heaven out here. It's so much different than living in the
Yeah,
city.
so are you able, like, do you have time to actually get to know some of the animals? I mean, you said 180 animals. That's a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
individuals. So how much time are you able to,
Oh yeah.
actually get to know some of them on a personal level?
Oh yeah. Well, there's a couple goats out here I absolutely love. They at times will come up to my front door and just like hang out and kind of, my dogs don't necessarily like, but yeah, so there's a goat named Nate and a goat named Darren, and they're super cute and fun to be around. And they just, they walk around the sanctuary, and they like to eat vegetables. And yeah, I just hang out with them,
And how
and
much turnover is there?
I
Like,
think,
do you get, I mean, that's a lot of animals to, care for and house and feed. Like, how many incoming people do you get?
well, it is yeah, a nonprofit, so most of the money comes from donations and so forth. Um,
And so
so
are you working there full
that's
time, or are you still working other places as well?
I volunteer here, so I do chicken time at night, and I help with the chickens during the day when I can. Chicken time just means that I help
And
put the chickens
what
to
does
bed
that
at
look
night.
like?
Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. I love it. So basically, there are chickens that go inside at night, and then chickens that stay outside. The ones that stay outside, they go in their coops. And so we just make sure they're all accounted for, and then we lock their coops up at night. And then I'll transport the ones that need to go inside and put
And
them
what
in
is
their
it
crate.
like? How do
So
you, uh, how is it distinguished who goes inside and who stays outside? Like, do they choose, or is it a question of their age or something?
good question. It's
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
do what Chris tells
yeah,
me to do. If she tells me that, certain chickens need to go inside,
yeah,
I just do
yeah.
what she tells
So
me to do and they
what
go
are
inside.
chickens like? Because, I've visited sanctuaries, but and in fact, my grandfather used to have a chicken farm, but Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've never spent, a lot of time on a regular basis with chickens. So what are they like, as
They have so much personality. They can be really sweet, but they can be very ornery at
they could be
times
very
too.
what?
You know, ornery, ornery. Yeah. Uh, Especially some of the roosters, because the rooster's job is to keep the ladies together. They have like a group of ladies that they're supposed to protect, and they got to keep the human away, right? So sometimes they can be a little feisty at times. So we have um we have two roosters out here named they're named after what Ted Bundy
Oh
and
my
Dennis
goodness.
Rader. There you go. Yeah. So they're definitely a little feisty, but they kind of simmer down as the evening goes on, as it gets later on in the night.
And how is it for the sanctuary? I know it's really tough for sanctuaries to just kind of keep the lights on
Right.
and keep everything going. Have you all faced challenges in that respect?
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why we have fundraisers. So right now we're having a winter fundraiser to raise funds for winter hay, and that is the end of August. We're going to have a in-person silent auction, if you will, and use donations from like individual businesses. So we can get funds, if you will, for
That's
winter hay.
awesome. Yeah, those fundraisers sound like a lot of fun. I'm trying to do the math in my head as far as when your episode will be coming out. It may not be until after the fundraiser, but regardless, we'll certainly include all the information about the sanctuary in the show notes.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So what's next for you,
I,
Chrissy? What are you working on, just professionally or within the animal rights realm?
well, right now I work two jobs already. So I'm a substitute teacher and I'm also an esthetician. Basically, I work in a spa. And I work with skin. But anyways,
Yeah.
that takes a lot of my time. But I really want to get more into activism. If I have the time, the extra time, that's really what I want to do. I've kind of been slacking off in that
Slacking
arena,
off while
if you
living at a
will. But I've
farmed
had a
animal sanctuary.
Sure, exactly. Well, I've had a lot of things come up that have kind of like stopped me. Like I had car
Hmm.
trouble here recently, and my dog wasn't feeling good. Um, and I had to take her back and forth to the vet a couple of times. So,
Yeah.
life gets in the way sometimes, but I really want to get back
Yeah,
into
and what
activism.
advice would you have? I
So,
mean, you've done so many different types of activism. What advice would you have for people, who are vegan and want to help and want to do some activism? Like what advice would you give them?
do it. I'll just do it. But, they can reach out to me or, you know, go online and check and see, use the vegan outreach and see if you can find someone that way. They don't have to do it
Right.
themselves, or by
Right.
themselves, there's always
Yeah,
a
what do you think
supportive
is a good
group.
way for people to get
Um,
started who may just think, there's so much help that's needed and where do I even begin?
I mean, check Google, activists, and they can Google activist groups in their local state, go online, or go on Facebook and look up. Um, they can start with the Animal Save group, right? There's an Animal Save group and, a handful of states. So
Yeah.
they can start that
Yeah,
way.
that makes sense. But the message I'm getting from you is just do something. It doesn't really matter so much, what it is. Just do
Do
something. Yeah.
something. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much for
Mhm.
sharing these amazing stories and for coming here on the podcast and
Yeah.
giving us an inside glimpse into what it's like to live on an animal sanctuary, which I think for a lot of vegans does sound like a slice of heaven. So
Yeah,
the
it's
final
it's a
question, which I
dream.
like to ask all my guests, is there a single word that for you sums up what being vegan is all about?
I would say compassion.
Yeah. Do you feel like your compassion
For sure.
has, has grown and expanded, or did you sometimes feel kind of tapped out just with all the suffering you've seen and haven't been able to really change?
Yeah, I mean, there are days where I feel tapped out, but at the end of the day, it's not about me, it's about the animals. And without my voice, the animals really don't have one. And so I have to think about that. I came into this, mainly for the animals, and I gotta keep going. So
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
that's what I'm
that
gonna do.
makes total sense. And thank you for your commitment and your integrity and for just staying on it. It's all we can do. All we can do.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it and having patience with me. I know because we've wanted to do this for some time, but
Life gets in the
again,
way.
life got in
Yes,
the
yes.
way.
And how are
So,
all your dogs doing at this time?
oh, they're doing great. Frankie's behind me. You
I
can
like how
hear
you
him.
say, I like how you see, I would say ornery. I like how you say ornery. Yeah.
Ornery,
Honorary.
yeah,
Yeah,
I say
I like that. I
honorary.
like that better.
I don't know. It's like tomato,
That sounds more
tomato.
honorary. Yeah.
I see it as like
Yeah,
tomato,
yeah.
tomato
No, I
sort of
like it.
thing,
I do.
But yeah, my
Good.
dogs are doing
Good.
really good.
All right.
So
Well, we conclude every
thank
episode by
you.
taking 30 seconds of silence for all the suffering animals, human and non-human, who desire, as we all do, safety, happiness, and the freedom to live out their lives without interference. So, Chrissy, I invite you to join me, Chrissy, in 30 seconds of silence for the animals, and we'll conclude with the sound of the bell. Thank you, Chrissy, and thank you, Posse. See you next time. Until then, stay strong and stay true.
Thank you.